Working in retail is never easy, especially when you have to deal with a bunch of crazies. Welcome to this episode of Tales from Retail. Our first tale is from TilePlaz26. This happened a couple days ago and figured I should share it. So, for those who haven't seen my previous posts, I work as a boom truck delivery driver for a build supply company. For those not familiar with them, it's a large flatbed truck with a crane on it to unload material. This customer had ordered a bunch of heavy decking material for a family member, so it was being delivered on my truck. When I arrived, the house was one of those units where 4 other houses were directly connected to each other, so the only way to the backyard was through the house. The customer thought I could get the material over the roof into the backyard, but my boom doesn't have that kind of reach, so the only way was to take each material one at a time and go through the house. The customer pointed that just behind their backyard fence was a cul-de-sac, and behind the fence was a little picket ball court. He told me I could enter the cul-de-sac, park on the court, then I could reach my boom into the backyard. I verified with him if there would be no problems, and that the court and everything wasn't private property. He assured me it would be fine, and anything that goes wrong, he would bear the responsibility. So I enter the cul-de-sac, inspect the court to make sure it could handle the weight of my truck, then pull forward, and unload my order into their backyard. During that time, a few people in the cul-de-sac came out of their house, watching the show as I boomed the order into the backyard. One guy came up to me, talking about how amazing it was to be able to deliver something like that while not having to do it by hand. Everything goes without a hitch, and I fold my boom back up to its driving position as the customers write me a check. There was a little discrepancy with the total amount, so I phoned down to the store to find out the correct total. As I'm talking to a store worker, this guy drives up in a big pickup truck and yells at me, "What the hell are you doing?" I respond that I was making a delivery to the house behind the fence. He's yelling, "You can't park your truck on that! That's a brand new court! You're gonna fucking wreck it! That's private property!" I replied that I was following the instructions of the customer and they were the ones who told me to park here. He's still yelling, "Well, you're gonna pay for that if there's any damage." At this point, the customer is poking his head over the fence, telling the guy to calm down, that they would be the ones to fix any damage, but the guy keeps yelling about how he doesn't care, that I shouldn't be there, etc. The next little bit was a blur because I was on the phone and everything went from 0 to 100. I remember the customer yelling, "Talk to me like that, I'm gonna hop over this fence and kick your ass." The two just started throwing obscenities at each other, threatening to kick each other's asses, with the customer's family yelling for him to stop. And that random guy I mentioned from earlier who was talking to me about how amazing the truck was, he was standing in front of this irate guy, holding his arm out, in front of this irate man, trying to keep things from turning into a fight. Finally, the guy gets back into his truck and drives off, and the guy who was standing in the irate man's way came over as him and the customer talked, trying to get the customer to calm down. He was saying, "Pay no attention to that idiot. He lives several houses down. He shouldn't have gotten involved. He's one of those people who are more brawn than brains." He then identified himself as the head of the cul-de-sac committee, and he had no problem with what we were doing. The court was fine, it was an interesting show, etc. He pointed out to the customer if anything else ever needed to be boomed in like that again, come to him and he can give official permission. The customer thanked him, apologizing for how things escalated and for not knowing he was the one to go to for permission. Both him and the customer then apologized to me for what happened. I just laughed, saying, "Hey, it keeps my day interesting," and we all wished each other a good day. So as I'm leaving the cul-de-sac, I pass where the irate man lives, as he was standing on his porch. He gave me a very low effort, almost defeated-like wave, so I smiled at him and gave him a very energetic wave as I drove by. You gotta love those people who have to insert themselves into a situation they had no business being in, and in this case, if the cul-de-sac had its own committee with a committee head, that guy not being a part of it had no business approaching you, your truck, or the scene in general. This next tale is by Game of Thrones Addict. Every once in a while, I come across someone whose thought process is different, that it's hard to figure out what is going on between what they're thinking and what's actually being said. This customer I talked to recently reminded me of the phrase, one step forward, two steps back. Well, the conversation we had to backpedal a mile and turn down a different route in order to get things accomplished. That, or the very least, having to take baby steps through this, having to explain things that normally most people would be able to piece together themselves. In this situation, I was taking phone calls and helping people go over their bills that they have with us, and other general questions. The customer initially called in to inquire why she wasn't receiving any of her bills. Simple enough request at start. The conversation went more like this. The cast is the customer and me. After verifying the account details, how can I help you today?
Yes, I called because I've been frustrated over these last couple of months. I'm tired of having to check online just to see what I owe. Why haven't I been receiving my bills?
I check on her account and see that we have been sending them to her. Additionally, she's been signed up for getting them sent to her email. So I've seen this call 100 times. People forget they sign themselves up for e-billing and call to complain about it. I'd be glad to check up on that. And to inquire, you mean why haven't you been receiving them in your mail?
Yes, of course. What else would I mean?
As it stands now, your account is signed up for paperless billing, meaning that it's been opted to have the bills emailed to you.
I know what that means. I remember signing up for it. Why do you keep bringing it up?
Already over this conversation. However, I know it's possibly far from over. Well, the reason why is because when it's set up this way, that means you no longer will be sent bills through the mail. It's sent to you strictly to your email.
That's just outrageous. Why can't you send it to me both ways?
Unfortunately, it's more of an either-or situation in regards to this matter. Now, if you wish...
Well, I don't want to have it that way then.
Yes, that's just what I was about to suggest. I'll go ahead and take care of that for you.
Alright, good. You best do that. I just want them to come to my house. Now, on to my other issue I called you for. I sent in a payment to you recently. I want to make sure that you got it.
Certainly. I'm glad that's over. I look into her account in regards to her payments. So on the account, there's nothing past due. However, there is still a bill that's currently owed of X amount. Is the payment you're talking about that you sent to us meant to cover this? Because as of now, we haven't received it yet to cover the current bill.
Wait, what? There's still something that I owe? Why? How is that?
Well, the deadline for this bill isn't for another couple weeks. However, it is the bill for this month. The payment you're talking about was meant to cover this? If so, we haven't received one for this bill yet. When did you recall making a payment last? Trying to see if she made a payment we just haven't received yet, or if something went wrong with the process of it applying to the account.
I just made the payment. Why are you saying I still owe something?
The last payment was received on April 20th, and that covered April's bill. However, then another bill came out, and that's what's owed. Is there a payment you've made since then?
Of course I'd be talking about the payment I sent in for April. I only pay my bills at the end of the month. Why in the hell would I be talking about the bill for May? It's not due yet.
Me wishing I could just hang up at this point. I'm sorry for the confusion. With you wondering why you still owed anything, plus you've been saying you've been checking your account online, made me think you meant you were talking about this bill. Now,
why would you assume I meant this bill? I was talking about last month's bill, obviously.
Me deciding not to repeat the explanation I just told her and moved on to avoid more arguments. My apologies. And in that case, we did receive that payment to cover last month's bill. Is there anything else I can help you with?
I just don't know why you'd think that. Anyway, I guess that's all for now.
She promptly hangs up on me, and I sit there for a few seconds to calm down my frustrations before moving on. I don't know why people are just so complicated. I mean, it kind of makes sense that at the end of May, somebody would be asking about the bill for May when she's a whole month behind. I don't know. I feel like all she was trying to do in this whole conversation was find a way to complain. This next tale is from Infinite Calendar 1. This happened today during my shift, and I work in a popular retail chain. So I was walking around the section of the store I was assigned to, just recovering fixtures that were a mess and putting items back where they belong. As I was walking around finding tasks to complete, a customer approaches me and says, "Hi." I respond with, "Yes." Repeats her, "Hi." And I repeat my, "Yes." About 2 or 3 more times until she snaps at me and says,
"When I say hi to you, you at least say hi back."
So I reluctantly say hi back, now that she's visibly upset. She proceeds to tell me I need to work on my customer service skills. She ultimately says she'll find another associate to answer her question, as I've provided poor customer service. I was so confused by this, as the way I responded to her is no different than how I interact with other customers, and I sure as hell had no intention of coming off as rude. I ultimately informed the manager of what happened, and she thought the customer was being a bit dramatic as I responded to her, but she expected a specific response which I failed to deliver, and my manager even noted that it sounded like she really wanted me to say hi to her. Ultimately, from now on, if a customer specifically says hi to me, I'll make sure to respond with hi before saying anything else. I'm taking this as a learning experience, as I don't ever want any customer to think that I don't want to help or I'm not interested. Edit. I think some people in the comments are completely missing the part where she repeated the word hi simply because I didn't give her the exact response she wanted, and this caught me off guard, as I thought she thought I was ignoring her when she had my full attention. Edit 2. For those of you telling me I should quit my job I've had for almost a year because of my mistake, if you're not going to help me find a new job, I don't want your input on my employment status. Just because you didn't respond to that customer in the way they expected you to respond doesn't mean you weren't providing them customer service. You gave them your full undivided attention, and that should be good enough. As for the people in the comments, it's always easy to talk shit across the internet when you don't have to deal with someone face to face. And our final tale is by Dance Dangerous 7950. At my job, if you return your items within 30 days, you get a full refund. If it exceeded 30 days or you don't have the receipt, the money goes back to a store credit that's the current selling prices. This woman came in with a dress that didn't fit. I scan the receipt and it tells me that it exceeded the 30 days. I tell her that her money will be on merch credit. This is what followed.
Why?
Because it's past the 30-day limit?
But I brought the receipt. Why can't I get my money back on dresses I've never worn?
Remember, she said they didn't fit. We go back and forth. Well, really she did. I wasn't exactly listening to her BS. I didn't even get a good look at the receipt. She bought the dresses 6 months ago. Ma'am, you bought this 6 months ago, so I can only give you merch credit money.
Well, I'm never going to shop here again, so I don't want the merch credit.
Okay. Hands her back the dresses. You can keep the dresses then. I'll spare you the details of the Karen screeches, but my manager got involved and eventually just told her to talk to corporate if she really had a problem with it. It just seems like Karen does not have her priorities in order. Honestly, I don't know anybody who would get clothes and then wait 6 months to go to return them, unless she was hoping that within that 6 months she'd be able to fit in them. I don't know. Karens will Karen. Alright, that's enough tales for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Tales from Retail. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks to my patrons. Have a great day and stay safe out there.